Hello everybody. As promised, this week it's a little bit different. As you can see, we're not at work and I'm sat with my mother. In my last video we said we were going to do a tour of the castle with my mum, and I was thinking that this video would be a little more insight into our journey before me, what my mum knows about the history of this place, what difficulties my mum and dad had buying it, their ideas about it all, and just to give you a bit more background. And I noticed that the tour of the castle was our biggest viewed video so far. So I thought that my mother would be the best one to talk us through it all.
We bought it in 1979, and it was really because, well, at that point we had milk rounds, and I ran sea houses and Headley ran Amble. And there was a gentleman in Amble took a shine to Headley and gave him a cup of coffee every day. And it turned out he was the engineer that was brought from Lincolnshire by Johnny Feather that built Whitley Bay Park and I think Cresswell Towers. Old Fred said to Headley, you need to buy some land and build a caravan park. We had no experience, no history with that sort of industry, but Headley set off on the dream.
Yeah.
Found this was advertised. I remember him bringing me here and standing here on that lawn out there and telling me what we were going to do. And I thought, my goodness me, we've got no experience. No, how are we going to do this?
So we bought this in 79, didn't we?
Yeah.
What was the price of this then? What was the 10 acres?
I thought it was about I think around about 50,000.
50,000 for 10 acres. So
Yeah.
that was the courtyard buildings and the castle.
Yeah. Funny enough, I read recently where when the estate was sold in the 1700s with 14 farms, it was 30,000, around about 30,000. And now you can't even buy
Calf
for that.
Yeah.
Really. So I was young and naive.
Yeah.
And when you're young, you just jump in and you get on and you work.
Yeah.
The week we moved, it was the 13th of February actually.
Snowing.
The 13th of February, Jamie was just a tot.
I was 3. I can remember the night we moved in. I can remember it was snowing.
And we got here, we had no water. So we were carrying water from his cousins at the end of the road. So that wasn't a very good start. And actually, we sold everything up and Headley said to me, I think you need to get a job because we've got no income. And the universe provides that I think it was the same week, I got a phone call, would I go and talk to someone at Bourne Leisure about a potential job
In the caravan industry.
So never having worked in the industry before.
But let's jump back a little bit. When my mum and dad met, because my mother went on a caravan and holiday at sea houses, they met and married within 6 months. They lived in a caravan.
No money, so we lived in a caravan.
Lived in a caravan because they obviously didn't have any cash. Had businesses.
So
Ran those businesses. Then decided to have a caravan park. Then my mother was pulled into a job in the biggest group of caravan parks in the country. So caravans, believe it or not, have always been in our blood.
So I tell everybody that caravans punctuate my life. And then the first area opened in 1990.
So 4 years.
So what was it like when you got here? So stay at the castle. I heard a story of there was a woman living in the castle. Have you got any info on that?
When you first came here to look, was she still in the castle?
Oh, I didn't come, it was Headley. No, I don't think she was. I mean, when we first bought it, there was dry rot in the main tower from top to bottom. There was an old Arga in this south wing.
South-east wing.
That's where she lived, isn't it? The yellow.
Yeah,
And the yellow.
and that there was dry rock behind that, so that all had to. We stripped that up.
So, did you ever meet? You didn't meet the lady who was in there. So they were the last
I
people to
didn't-
have it before
no.
you.
She'd gone back to America.
Yeah, James said she's an American.
She was an American actress.
How did she end up here? What happened?
She met Bill Sitwell in New York, I think. And allegedly, legend has it that he thought she had money and she thought he had money. But bless, apparently they came and they did try to create high-end bed and breakfast and bring in Americans, but I don't think the business model worked at that point. I don't know what happened. So the plan was strip out the areas of dry rot, stop the water coming in so the building would hold until we were in a position to go back to it. But the priority was obviously create the park, because the park will look after everything else.
Did Headley think he would do the castle in his life?
There's always these
Or
plans.
was that, yeah.
Doesn't matter which generation, as long as we get there.
Yeah. No pressure, Jamie.
No. Yeah. So I had a phone call yesterday with the architects for the castle. So we're tied up in this nitrogen thing again with another one of our projects. It's just a regional problem for planning. But they were super happy the fact that we've had good comments for our proposal from the conservation officer, the Georgian group, and the planning officer, and the county ecologist. They are seriously excited with the responses that we've had. And just your question there about, like, was it my dad's plans and my mum saying doesn't matter which generation. Sometimes the best things take time.
Yeah.
Like, we could have rushed that and we could have done it years ago. The plan might have not been as good. The understanding of the building might not have been as good. The delay has given us the right professionals to work with in Spence and Dower. They were introduced to us by English Heritage. They're like the senior figures for historical buildings as an architect, and they've got like decades of experience in seriously sensitive listed buildings. So when you bring people like that to the table, the credibility that you achieve with the authorities is another realm, isn't it? When was that north wing ruined?
The lead was taken off the north wing at the end of the Second World War, I understand, to pay the estate wages, and that was typical across the estates struggled after the war, didn't they?
And that was under the previous owner.
Yeah,
The lead.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and
from-
there was I think at one point they were even contemplating dismantling that wing and selling the stone.
Right. Well.
So I understood it that there was two predominant families that owned this place. There was the Muschamp family first, who came over from France, didn't they?
Yeah, they were in the Norman Land Division. They were given the barony of Wooler, plus land from Chillingham, Belford, Lawick, here, Forneacle, Pallinsburn, Branxton. So they had a huge tract, but obviously they had to fulfil the wishes of the king and defend the area, and if they were called to arms and so on. So the Barmoor was, well, originally it was called Barmoor, but Barmoor was first mentioned in 1119, 1120 when it was given to the Muschamp family, and a hold was built big enough to house 30-40 horsemen.
Nah.
Aye, horses and men from the 11th century.
Yeah,
And
so
it was like a peel tower, wasn't it?
yeah, so I wonder if, because it was not so far from the Roman road, the Devil's Causeway that runs through Lawick, if that was key in the position of the hold.
It was all about the border.
Yeah.
It was all about the border raiders, the reavers that used to come over, and we used to defend the border.
It was obviously on the military map because Edward I, Edward II, Henry V, and the Earl of Surrey in September 1513 all camped here with huge English armies. Francis Sitwell revamped this building to what you see now. He held a housewarming agricultural show in 1803, and put up that crenellated wall as a frontage for the
Just
show,
for an event.
and it's still then listed. That particular Sitwell had the nickname of Frank the Gambler. He'd been left the estate, and with it was Coupland and Yevron.
Other estates.
Yeah, and he'd
We lost them in a game of cards.
Yes, I think it was. I think it was a cockfight wager that he lost Coupland, but he obviously was quite a character. He employed John Patterson, an Edinburgh architect, in 1800 to revamp the buildings to what you see now, and his brief at the time was to honour or remember the turbulent past, but bring the building into an era of elegance and stability. And I think that is exactly what you see.
Right, I'm going to leave you with my mum and Cameron. Cameron's going to take my mum round the castle, and my mother's going to talk about some of the history, some of the facts and the things she knows about, some of our journey, and we're going to go inside and have a bit of a look. The next time you see me is going to be the next video of us tarmacking that little development. I need to go and press on with that now. So I'll leave you in the capable hands of my mother. Thank you.
Well, this main tower, there was water coming in from the roof, and there was dry rot from top to bottom. So the first task was to stop the water coming. So that was re-roofed. Where the ivy is, the room, the first floor, there was an auger in there, and that was leaking, and there was dry rot. So that all had to be stripped out.
Right.
So it was a case of make the building sort of sound and watertight and hold it until we were in a position to do something with it. There's a couple of things inside the building I'd like to show you and chat about, so let's head in there now. Well, it has to be one of the old kitchens, and it was part of the old tower. We've got floor plans showing the old tower layout, and that's actually featured on the floor plan. I'll try and dig that out to show you. But when we first came here, that wall was completely plastered, and some of the plaster had fallen off, and Helen and I could see the arch, and we were intrigued as to what was behind there. So we stripped it off, and that's what we found. So it's got to be medieval. This would be the main kitchen after 1800.
Okay.
You have a bit, Bain Marie was full of letters, and local historians, John and Anne Ferguson, who have done masses of research work and put together the Barmoor Chronicles, they logged all of these letters and have produced a book which is now in the Records Office, listing all the letters, and it's really a social history of the time from it's sort of, I think it's 1910 to about 1930. Yeah, when we were doing all of the main sort of infrastructure for the park, he was working in advance to get sort of the main electric wire in and a drainage pipe in, ready for the future.
Do you remember a floor being here? Was this always
The floor, yes, we had to take this floor out, and that was all re-roofed as well.
And what do you think these stories were? So
I think this was a bedroom, but actually in there, in that tower, there was a sort of a laboratory, and I think there was sort of a nursing society or something for the estate, and this was where they heated water for the washing. When Simon Sitwell visited and was chatting to Headley, he told him that this room the doors would always open, and they had locksmiths and joiners try to solve the problem, but it kept on opening, and furniture would move out onto the hallway. So, because it's supposedly the only square room in the building, but it doesn't look square.
It's not particularly square.
And this was the room that Simon Sitwell told Hadley that there was probably the doors were open and so on, and probably haunted.
Yeah.
When we first opened the park, there was we did an open day, and this guy came up to me, and he was a fish. I can't remember his name. So long ago, 30 odd years ago. He was a fishmonger from Eyemouth, and he said to me that many years before he'd been invited by Bill Sitwell and his wife to come and serve a special fish dish. And when he walked into the dining room, sat there was Spencer Tracy and Catherine Hepburn. And he was absolutely amazed to find them there. And of course, they weren't seen as a couple out, they obviously worked together, but were never seen as a couple outside. The building, as you see it outside, it dates back to 1801. This was not completed to 1892, but it was part of the tower and the old hall. And you can see this was a circular, on the old floor maps, there was a circular staircase here, so that's... You think it's a large building now, but actually it was never completed to the original design. So I can show you floor plans and also drawings of what the exterior should have looked like if it had been completed to Patterson's design. So if we go back to the office. So I mentioned the layout of the old tower. Right. I think it was sort of towards the end of the 1700s, the owner of the estate then was Samuel Phipps, and he employed Cully and Bailey, or Bailey and Cully, to do a survey of the estate, evaluation survey of the complete estate. And we think this is where these come from that piece of work. And it was John Nolan that found them, I think, in the records office. But at least it gives us an idea of the layout of the tower. That's part of the south tower, the south wing. So these were the two kitchens that we were in.
Ah, yes. Okay. And this on here, so what we're missing?
When we started to think about what we were going to do with the building and apply for planning for apartments, we wanted to try and find the old floor or the old plans that John Patterson produced, and this shows that, well, you can see the old tower there, but the courtyard was never complete.
So, yes, this whole section.
There must be a registry for architects' plans, and they couldn't find them in this country. And I think it was Chris Brackley from Spencer Tower had a brainwave or he'd seen a catalogue or something that was being advertised in New York for sale, and it was the floor plans. Please. And he sent for them, and he'd only just got them when that area was flooded. We would have, if he hadn't bought them, we wouldn't have these.
Wow. Why do you think he never finished the project?
I would guess it was money. It was Frank the Gambler Sitwell who revamped the castle to what you see now. He left, when he died, he left 50,000 borrowings, which his descendants were left to pay off. And it took till, I think it was the Brigadier General finally paid off the debts. So it was obviously money, but there's all the stories about him being a gambler and so on. And there was another story where he was trying to get away from his creditors, and he faked his own funeral, and he went in disguise. It just reinforces that it is so important that the business here is strong and
do something like this. Yeah.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it, but I'll leave Jamie to do all of the future videos.
Thank you.